Okay, that should be enough. I'm based in Amsterdam at the moment, so there's always a little bit of background noise no matter where you are. So it's
Yeah, that's the same for me.
okay. No, well, that's great. But yeah, I think it's really nice to have the opportunity to talk with you, and particularly to actually get a bit more of a I don't won't say hands-on, but a bit more yeah, I don't know, informed and closer to the action perspective on what's going on in terms of this discussion around European defense spending and this big push around defense. So, I guess before we get into all of those interesting topics, maybe it's nice to start with who are you, and maybe you could also introduce Banca Etica as well.
Sure. So my name is Andrea Baranes, and I'm based in Italy, in Rome actually. And I work for the Italian Ethical Bank, which is Banca Etica, and namely for the Cultural Foundation, who is a foundation that deals with participating in European networks and trying to promote ethical finance. The bank in itself was born more than 25 years ago as a cooperative. In fact, it was a quite unique bottom-up approach in which we raised capitals going, I mean, between NGOs and fair trades and organic agriculture and simple person who were little fed up with their banks or didn't like their banks. And so we tried to raise the capital in order to build a different bank. And in the end, we got our banking license from the Italian Central Bank back in 1998. So it's 27 years we're around now, and the bank's always been growing. And basically, it's a normal bank in the sense that it provides all the services that the other banks do provide, from internet banking, credit card, and so on and so forth. But it's quite different, meaning that it's based on solid principles that are inscribed in the very statutes of the bank, like providing finance to those normally excluded from access to credit, like excluding some sectors that have negative impact, would it be social or environmental impact, and the other way around, giving credit only to the project that have some positive impact. So we do a double evaluation of any subject that comes to the bank. And as all the traditional banks, we do the classical economical and financial evaluation. But in parallel, we do another evaluation, which is an impact evaluation, in which we demand several questions regarding the governance, the social impacts, the environmental impacts, ranging from how many women sit in the board to how you dispose your wasters, or I mean, we have tens of questions in order to check that whoever asks for a loan in Banca Etica do respects the core values and principles on which the bank was created, yes, nearly 30 years ago.
No, great. I mean, that's a very nice way of actually making this ethical finance topic a bit, or ethical banking rather, a bit more concrete about what it is, and also a bit about what makes you a little bit special compared to other banks as well. And I had also the good fortune to speak with Valentina from Febea actually just this morning. So yeah, it's definitely my ethical finance day of the week, I think today. Uh, maybe we can then dive a little bit into this topic of our conversation today, but also the topic which is, I don't want to say dominating, but definitely very present in European uh, policy discussions, which is about defense. And I think Banca Etica has had a long-standing position on defense, and this is now something which social economy, social finance are going to have to start discussing a bit more as well about how we respond to this as a sector, this push for defense. What's Banca Etica's position been on defense actually for the last years, and maybe you could talk a bit about where this has come from and developed from as well.
Yes, Banca Etica has quite a clear and sharp position regarding defense in the sense that we completely exclude any financing to companies dealing with producing, manufacturing, manutention, anything dealing with weapons and arms. So the sector is completely excluded. Would it be not only controversial weapons, but all the defense and military system is completely excluded from any loan or financial relationship. And this is true for the bank in itself. And the bank is also the owner of an asset management company who also excludes, since it was born, all the shares and bonds of companies linked to defense, military, weapons, etc. And this has been one of the main characteristics of Banca Etica since it was born. So we have a completely exclusion criteria, together with other exclusions. To name a few, it can be coal, oil, intensive agriculture, chemical, nuclear, not only military nuclear, but also civil nuclear. And so we have a series of exclusion, but the first and most important on which the bank really was born is the one of arms and defense. And in fact, a lot of people, not only when the bank was born, but during the year came to Banca Etica because they say basically, I don't want the money in my bank account to be used for buying weapons, for financing defense and military companies. So this has been really one of the landmarks which defines ethical finance according to us, and this has always been the case.
No, super interesting. And do you think this is something which, in this new context, is actually going to be yeah, I was going to ask, do you think this is something which we can continue and be sustainable as a position? But actually, I think when you were talking, I'm thinking, actually, is this going to be a big opportunity, actually, also for Banca Etica to have this clear position and also other ethical banks? Yeah, how do you see this new emphasis on defense
Uh,
in this new context? Yeah.
I think it may be an opportunity in the sense that the European Union started defining sustainable finance, and we were really in favor. I mean, the taxonomy and trying to define each and every activity, its environmental impact and its social impact. And then what we witnessed in the last years was a progressive and continued weakening of the definition of the criteria, and all the parameters has been diluted to the point that really sustainability has almost no meaning anymore. And I think that really the defense industry is a case in point. I mean, since the very definition of sustainable finance was born, we can quote, I mean, 200 years ago, some religious funds started saying, we don't want to invest in what they call the sin shares. And the sin shares were gambling, slavery, alcohol, and first and most important, it was arms and the military system and the defense companies. So it's been 200 years since sustainable finance has been defined around some key issues, but really weapons has been at the core of these definitions. And now there's this huge push from European Union, not only from the lobbies, but from governments and the European institutions themselves to try and include weapons and defense into sustainability, which is really a nonsense to me. It's not even the debate at this point is not even if weapons have to be included in sustainability, is if sustainability has to have a meaning anymore. The example I quote several times is just like, I'm a vegetarian, I go into the restaurant and they bring me a steak. And I say, hey, I don't eat meat. And they try to say, yeah, but from now, steak are included in definition of vegetarian. Okay, I call it something else. But do I have the right to choose not to eat meat when I come into a restaurant, or am I obliged to do so? So with my money, once I put my money in a bank account or I give my money to an asset management company, in a free market such as the European market, do I have the right to choose if I want to invest in some companies and not in others, and exert my rights because it's my money and I have the right to choose where I want to invest in? And up until now, I had this right, and it was called sustainable finance. I knew that I would not invest in some companies. I'm not even talking if rearmament is a good issue, if it's right or wrong, if I'm naive in not. It's just, my choice as a consumer, as a client of a bank, not to invest in these issues. If they say sustainable finance, now it's okay to bring in coal and oil and weapons and nuclear and whatever would it be. Okay, I call it something else. Just leave us a word. We'll call it non-armed finance. Maybe ethical finance will be spared from now. We'll just change the world. But this is what it is really at stake now in the discussion on sustainable finance.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's probably a few vegetarians who would like the definition of vegetarianism, including steak, but there's also probably a lot of others who would be a bit confused as well. No, it's really interesting. I think also to separate out the points around sustainability and then also whether or not this is necessary or important or whatever. That's not really the issue. It's more a question about the taxonomy. So I think yeah, also maybe feeds into this wider question around what's going on in Europe around sustainability policies, which have been developed over many years and now seem to be slowly, or not slowly, but quite quickly, actually being turned back and undone, which is quite disappointing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, on the one hand, we saw from von der Leyen 1 to von der Leyen 2 the shift between sustainability, and now the buzzword in the European Union is competitiveness. And there's a lot of talking about the fact that we did enough, if not too much, on sustainability, and we put all a series of criteria and borders and hurdles on our companies. And Chinese companies don't have it, US companies don't have it, Brazilian companies, the Indian companies, the rest of the world don't have it. So we are losing competitiveness because of too much, in brackets, too much sustainability. Obviously, we see a major threat to that, which is we don't refuse the idea of competitiveness, but somehow competitiveness can be intended in two very distant ways. One is competitiveness toward excellence, doing the best products, the best choices, the best technology in order to attract capitals. And quite at the opposite is dismantling every law on workers' rights, on the environment, in order to produce at a lesser and lesser price. And unfortunately, what we see with sustainable finance, and it really seems that the European Union went along the second path and not the first one. And the fact that there's so much insisting on diluting sustainable finance, I think is also proof that more and more clients ask their funds, their money to be invested sustainably. So we could have an opportunity there to say we'll make strong rules about sustainability, we'll make competitiveness as an excellency, and we'll be able to attract capitals from all over the world, because the European Union will be the hub spot for whoever in the world wants to invest sustainably, and then we will attract capitals from all over the world. And the other way around is just, trying to run after, it's just a race to the bottom on the definition of sustainability, and trying to lower and lower and lower the standard in order to include everything. And I think it's really a short-sighted view from the European Union, apart from the fact that we are more and more distant as ethical finance. We don't recognize anymore in this definition of sustainability. But this is just not a problem with us. It's really the matter is that I think it's really a short-sighted vision from European Union right now.
No, disappointing. And I mean, I think, yeah, in this context, I think it's from your position, how do you see ethical and sustainable finance responding to this? Yeah, well, obviously the focus on defense, but then this wider, sustainability context.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you quite well. Could you say that again?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
There was a moment you were freezing.
No, sorry. My question was, in the current context, then with this work on sustainability going maybe not in the right direction, and this big push around defense, how do you see, or what do you think then is the next steps, or the opportunity, or the challenge for ethical banks like Banca Etica in this new context? How do they go forwards?
Well, I think the challenge is definitely to have more and more distinctiveness with respect to the mainstream finance. I mean, we witnessed in the last years the huge greenwashing from the financial system. I mean, each and every bank was pretending to be sustainable, green, and climate friendly, and whatever the definition would be. And then if you just scratched under the surface, it was void, completely void. I mean, we witnessed banks that said that they were sustainable, and then if you were to look at the definition of sustainability, it was just internal impacts. So their definition of sustainability was we use recycled paper in our branch offices, then we can continue to finance with billions of dollars the worst coal mines of coal power plants or whatever would it be, because we just, and obviously it's a nonsense once again. Obviously any client that say, I want my money, I want to open a bank account in a sustainable bank, it's my money that has to go into sustainable loans or sustainable companies or whatever it would be. But still there are these greenwashing definitions around. And now I see the thread with defense and military that we witness quite the same issues. I mean, more and more banks are jumping and said, yes, we are responsible, we are sustainable, our ESG approach, but the criteria are so weak that in fact you don't select tech. I mean, a challenge would be to ask the European Commission, after your definition, please tell us just one unsustainable company or one unsustainable sector, because one sustainable finance, somehow fossil fuel is admissible and nuclear is admissible, weapons are admissible. Just please, I'm struggling to find out just one unsustainable. So I guess really the main difference that ethical finance can make in the future, maybe the most important word, is transparency. And Banca Etica is, I would say, unfortunately, but up until now is the only bank that provides a full list of all the organization, companies, cooperatives that has been financed in the history of the bank. So if you go into your bank and you say, please tell me where my money in my bank account ends up, you're always told, oh, there's bank secrecy, we cannot tell. No, bank secrecy is not an imposition by law. I mean, what we basically say, if you have nothing to hide, there's nothing to hide. And if you go on the website of Banca Etica, you can find all the loans that the bank has provided since it was born. So in 27 years, you can find all the name, how much money we gave them, for what purpose, and how they use this money. So there's a complete transparency on the use of the money, because we believe it's the money of the clients, because we are owned by 50,000 shareholders all over Italy and Spain that want to know if the banks just stick to the principles and values upon which it was born. And so these is maybe even before the selection of the exclusion of some sector companies. I think in the coming future, transparency will be a key issue in order to differentiate between real sustainable initiatives and greenwashing, social washing, and all that we are unfortunately witnessing today.
No, yeah, no, really good point. And yeah, transparency is something which I guess maybe we overlook slightly when we're busy talking about the specifics of certain regulations and directives, but actually it's really fundamental to understanding impact, which we really indirectly are always talking about. And then I think we're talking a bit now more broadly as well about not just defense, but also sustainability. But ethical financing and sustainable finance is really a big part of the social economy in Europe as well. And whether, like we say, it's not, this isn't about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, or it should happen or shouldn't. It is a big topic, defense and rearmament at the moment. Um, in that context, and with the social economy as a whole, um, how do you see this, the role of the social economy in this context? And is there a positive opportunity for the social economy, or do you think it's really more of a challenge also to make sure that there's not this mission drift into, yeah, this sustainable areas, social areas, which are not actually very sustainable or very socially, yeah,
Well, I think
positive?
it's both an opportunity and a challenge. Well, first of all, Banca Etica is really deeply interlinked with social economy in Italy. In fact, not only our main clients and the bulk of our loans goes to cooperative, social, non-profit, and the social economy, but really how Banca Etica was born, as I said in the beginning, out of the effort of tens of organizations, non-profit organizations, third sector organizations, who really wanted to build a bank because maybe they couldn't get credit from the normal banking system and the normal banking circuits. So I think now more and more with the growth of the social economy and the growth of ethical finance, more and more there's possibilities to work together, and we are already working very well with some of the main networks of the social economy, some of the main organizations of social economy. This said, I guess also that the social economy is a broad definition, is a broad sector, so ranging from organizations that are more in line also with the environmental principle, the social principle, human rights principles, and there are also little pieces of the social economy, but also pieces of social economy in which it's harder for us to recognize or to seek. It's not just the definition. In Italy, social economy is usually somehow superposed with the idea of non-profit, private, public, and the third sector somehow, which is not the exact European definition, but still. But we witness in Italy that there are a lot of organizations that have our own goals and share our own view and vision, and we work very well with them. And there are companies that just there because they are part of the social economy is not automatically they will share our values and our mission and our identity. So we seek out of a broad work, the one of the social economy, with a great overlapping between ethical finance and social economy, but still there are differences in some issues. And I would say it is a challenge for social economy and ethical finance, also what is happening in Europe right now, because we see a lot of funds in not just the political priorities, but the funds and the financing from the European Union. We see now in the debate with the multi-annual financial framework, there's the risk of a great shift toward rearmament, toward competitiveness, and less money put on social economy, on cohesion fund, on the issues that were really at the core of the previous work of the Commission. We can see, I mean, it's the same for transition finance, climate finance, and so on and so forth. So there's a risk that some of the very issues that are at the core of the social economy, which is, I mean, helping the ones that are normally excluded from some basic services, as we try to help the one normally excluded from financial services. So once again, there's an overlap between ethical finance and social economy, but they may be struggling in the coming future because the priorities of the European Union are shifting so deeply and so rapidly in the last month.
No, it's not an entirely positive outlook. I think we can agree. But I mean, yeah, we're thinking about the future. I wonder, do you have any then recommendations for policymakers in Brussels about what maybe they should be thinking about as they go into this sort of new budget, this new era in this context? What can they do to actually help? Yeah, protect, maintain, support, increase the social economy, and also ethical finance within that.
Yes, we have several recommendations, and we obviously try to do, little word, we try to push for them and do some advocacy work towards the European institutions. And some are quite technical on a banking level, some are more broad in the use of the funds and regarding the multi-annual financial framework. But there are several ones. For instance, what we say as ethical finance, normally the instruments that are granted by the European Union, would it be towards ethical finance or towards social economy, is liquidity instrument. We will help you by providing liquidity. And this is great, but a lot of time it's not the main instrument we need. It happens as ethical finance, we try to finance the small fair trade organization, the small cooperative, which has really almost zero equity. And for us as a bank, it's really hard to reach some sectors of the social economy because of the current rules. I mean, we have obviously to stick by the rules that are promoted by the European Commission or the European central banks in terms of the risk, in terms of how managing the risk, how much of your own capital you have to set apart for any loan you provide. And currently, a lot of the loan provided to the social economy are by default considered more a risk than the loans provided to for-profit, not to say for multinational companies. And what we say, in 25 years, Banca Etica has been working with the one considered more risky, the social economy, the small corporate, etc., but in fact has some default rate on its loans that are lower than the average of the banking system. So it's in 25 years of experience, we saw that it's not true that this company bear more risk for the bank than the for-profit or the multinational company. So we asked ourselves, why do we have to set aside more of our own capital, which means that any loan we provide to the social economy is more costly, is more hard to provide, and a lot of sector will be excluded, and so on and so forth. So revising these rules, and somehow we feel that also with this competitiveness buzzword that's coming over and over and over again, there's this one-size-fits-all banking rules which are designed on the groups of bigger dimension. The rules are set for the bigger banking groups because they have to compete on a world scale, etc., etc. But we say a diverse economic land like the European one, obviously the financial needs of a big multinational are not the one of the social economy, of the small company, of the non-for-profit company. So we would really need different banks in order to provide different financial services to different sectors of the economy. And we need what sometimes we refer to as banking biodiversity, while on the other hand, we witness that European rules are really tailored onto the biggest banking groups and one size fits all rules. And this puts us in a very hard condition sometimes to provide the financial services to the social economy.
Banking biodiversity. That's a nice way to phrase it, I think. You can just imagine all of the small banks being eaten by the big banks, but I think that may have already happened.
Yes, unfortunately, it did happen. It did happen quite a lot. And what we witness in Italy, we have disappearing bank branches each and every day, which means more and more people do not have a bank account, a bank branch in their municipality. And they say,
Mm.
okay, they will deal with internet banking. Obviously, in an aging country as Italy is, it's quite hard to tell an 80-year-old person that his only bank branch has closed and he does not have a bank anymore. And so the only possibility to have of not being completely excluded from financial services, internet banking or digital banking for a very aged person. So there are some problems on the side of people using financial services, and there are problems on the side of those trying to access bank loans and and other financial services as well.
No, it's super interesting, and I think also really interesting when you talk about the banking regulations not really accommodating social economy. And we do a lot of work as Euclid Network around access to finance, and we know very well that accessing finance is a problem, but then these kind of specific reasons why enterprises can't access finance is still something which tends to not be then well understood because it's at the surface level that's we know it's a problem, but what's causing this problem, there's less agreement by sometimes among the policymakers. So it's interesting to hear from your perspective as a finance provider. Yeah. But no, that brings me on to my last question, which is one of my favorite questions, but it's not about social economy or ethical finance necessarily. And I think you maybe don't have a podcast to recommend, or you do have a podcast to recommend, and some additional resources as well.
Yes, it's not directly a podcast. It's a website where we try to do some information on ethical and sustainable finance and on social economy as well. And it's called Valori. It's mainly in Italian, valori.it. And what we try to do is what we call critical information on finance. There's a whole lot of information on finance, and usually the information you receive or the explanation you receive is how to use, how to do, internet trading online or how to get into Bitcoin or stuff like that. What we try to see is why you should just stay away from some products and some channels, and why you should inform yourself about how finance works, the flows of the actual financial system. And we try to do this through articles and inquiries and also some podcasts on several arguments. So whoever is interested, obviously the main information is in Italian, even though we have something in Spanish and English, but the address, it's valori.it.
Amazing. No, very nice. I mean, I'm shocked to find out Bitcoin isn't an ethical banking product, but no, but very nice to have that recommendation, and indeed, hopefully, provide some useful information to listeners as well. No, but thank you. I wonder, is there anything else you think we should cover, or which we didn't touch upon?
No, I don't think so. I think more or less that's the main issues I have with,
No.
namely the idea of including or somehow including weapons into the sustainable finance
Mm.
definitions and criteria, which is kind of absurd according to our point of view.
Yeah, but it's true, and when you start pointing out that gas and all the rest of it is in there as well, the idea that it's sustainable it's not a sustainability taxonomy. It's something quite different.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if everything is sustainable, then nothing is sustainable. I mean, you just make a definition that recomprises the whole system. What is left aside? I mean, it's just the question we have right now.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. We'll have to see if they what they do and how they adapt to this in the future. But I have to say I'm not optimistic that they're going to make many positive changes. So, but
No, neither do I. Quite on
yeah,
the opposite. I mean, seeing how it's going right now. Yeah.
yeah, no, but we'll keep our fingers crossed, especially for the next budget to see what they put in and for the social social priorities and social financing. and guarantees
Yeah.
InvestEU and the rest of it. So it's yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but thanks so much. We're going to be then editing and producing the podcasts, and then I think we hope to release the episodes around defense
Hmm.
in November. I think towards the end of November. But of course, we're still finalizing and editing and everything, so it can always take a little bit longer. But yeah, before the end of the year at least, we're producing everything, so
Great.
should be
Okay.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
really
we'll
nice.
keep in touch anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And if there's anything else which comes to your mind, let me know. And also, if you have any questions, yeah, I'm always
Sure.
around.
Okay. Great.
Now, thanks very much. And yeah, wishing you a
Thanks a
very nice
lot.
afternoon.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.